Welcome to today's episode of our podcast, Decoding Seoul. Today we're breaking down Korea's linguistic landscape from Seoul's modern districts to the quiet rural alleys. Let's begin by looking at three types of the locations: tourist hotspot, public transport areas, and rural or any environments. Sarah, maybe you want to share first?
Okay, so in tourist locations like Myeongdong, Hongdae, and Gyeongbokgung, the signage is actually managed by the regional government, such as the Seoul Metropolitan Government and also the Jeju Special Self-Governing Province. So these places usually use multilingual signage, especially on the famous tourist places. But once you move to the rural area or even at the island, so the signage will shift into the Hangul only. So maybe they want to focus on the local people there.
That's absolutely true, Sarah. If we actually look at the common buses, trains, or even subway lines in Seoul area, signage is actually governed by the Seoul Metropolitan Government. Hangul is always primary, both culturally and legally, but you can also see English consistently and even in tourist-heavy zones, maybe like a certain area like Gangnam, you can also find Chinese and Japanese. It's actually because of the Framework Ordinance on Public Transportation and the Framework Act on the Korean language that requires while Korean to be dominant and prominent, foreign language are always added for accessibility. But I believe rural areas are different, right, Huda?
Yeah, I think it's completely different based on my understanding and also research. One of the rural areas that we find is Pyeongtaek, and it was originally a farming or agricultural area. So the signage there are mostly Hangul, because the target only for local people, not for tourists, not for foreigners. But they do have a foreign military base, but most of the signage used are in Hangul. This is because they want to preserve their heritage, especially in semi-rural heritage area like Jeongju, Hanok village, but you can still see English. But I would say the biggest language or the biggest alphabet that you can see is actually Hangul, not English alphabet or Roman.
So how about the arrangement of the language? Sarah, mind sharing?
Oh yeah, sure. So the sign placement is usually high because at the first place it's easier for people to see, right? But it also applies when language placed higher on the sign, it generally indicates official things or locally dominant languages, while lower positioning often suggests like subordinate status or secondary audience like tourists. So some places will put Hangul as a top positioning of local language, but also will put another language beneath them. So for example, as for the low placement such as cafe, maybe it actually it want to promote the accessibility and the informality and the intimate feeling. But in other hand, the high placement is actually for the greater authority. For example, for the government buildings, the historical building, like that.
I see. Public transport actually reflects the same hierarchy. Hangul always comes first, the largest font, English directly beneath, and then lastly in tourist-heavy area, Chinese and Japanese, depending on the visitor traffic.
I see. But that is very different, especially in rural area, because I would say that there is no hierarchical barrier exists there, because most of the signage and people spoken are using Hangul. So there is no such things as which language is top, second, it's only Hangul. And they signage is big, very big, to attract the local people.
But I actually do wonder, how do locals or even tourists actually use these signs?
So in tourism, multilingual signs make navigation straightforward for everyone actually. But once everything turns purely Hangul, so tourists without Korean language skill will struggle. But fortunately, we have many tools right now like Google Translate and even ChatGPT right now, right? So those tools make people rely on it and make it easier easier to understand the signage actually.
Oh, I see. That's interesting actually, because in rural or alley market like Jeonju, Hanok village that I mentioned before, local depends on Hangul, solely Hangul. So they can quickly identify the menu, what do they sell, the shop, the prices. However, for tourists who wants to come to Jeonju Hanok village, they only can rely on graphic, pictures, and occasionally English keyword, but not long English sentence. So the vendor purposely use very bright and also oversized signage to attract these tourists. Because they can't use English signage, right?
That's actually very different from public transport signage because it's actually very extremely visitor-friendly focus. Typically, Hangul will appear first, topmost, but English versions are always available, including other languages like Japanese and Chinese. This is because to make navigation easy for first-time visitors. Now, let's talk politics. My favorite part, maybe not. The Framework Act on the Korean language actually requires legally Hangul to be the largest language in official signage. Another point is about the Framework Ordinance on Public Transportation in Korea mandates that signs must support both local and foreign visitors. That's why even though Korean must come first, it must have other languages such as English, Japanese, Chinese for supplementary for the visitors.
I think it's actually the same in rural areas, but in terms of traffic or road signage, in rural areas, the National Road Traffic Authorities enforces the Hangul first. So it's often Hangul only, not English. So the editor, please insert the picture here. So I think it's to approach the safety and also the clarity, because foreign languages only appear in tourist-heavy location, right? So those tourists will maybe not really often read signage, safety signage on the road.
That's quite heavy.
Yeah.
Then let me ask, based on what you have seen among the signage in around Seoul, Korea, what do you think the signs actually communicate beyond just the information about the place?
I think in rural spaces or rural region, Hangul dominance send a very strong message to culture identity and also the linguistic power. So it shows that it's always Hangul, and maybe in the tourist area like Seoul, like you guys, then English should be, and followed by Chinese and Japanese. So English only appear where businesses want, I would say, economic advantage, because they want to attract the tourists, right? So like rural area, there's not many tourists who come, so they don't think that English is very significant. Only Hangul.
Absolutely. When you walk around Korea, so the signs you can see tell a story. Hangul is front, center, showing I think that culture pride, unity. But you can see English, Chinese, Japanese translations, because that's one Koreans wanted to welcome visitors by saying we are also modern, we are global. We want visitors to feel welcome. I think it's like this mix of national pride with global modernization, because it's actually shaped by the state policy, culture pride, and even tourism economics, as you can see in different areas in Seoul. So, how about visual? What do you think about the fonts, colors, etc.?
So I think for certain places have a certain font and color use actually. So for example, like the heritage site, if you watch Running Man, they usually shoot at the heritage site, right? So they usually use the traditional serif font called Myeongju actually, and then it always color in black or brown, and it also will often use the signage on the wood or even the stone material, so it shows the elegant and the historical vibes for the heritage sites actually. So as for the modern commercial areas, maybe it's just the cutesy font, the unique style font, like in
Very aesthetic.
really aesthetic, maybe in the Itaewon like that. So it will be used the bright neon color, the youthful and energetic
Like the
vibes.
cafes also.
Yeah, and for the cafes also. And even they have the handwritten style fonts, right? So that's also bring the closeness among the customer or even the tourists, I guess.
Wow, I see. But it's actually a bit different, but also share some similarity with public transport signage. Because as you can see previously, and even in tourist-heavy spots, Hangul has the largest font, while English and other languages are directly below it in small fonts. I think also they tend to create a very consistent type of modern typography font that is actually very clear visual compared to maybe the handwritten or the cute Instagrammable fonts to create like a visual hierarchy for readability, especially for like tourists, because some of them might be confused looking for the directions, everything. So on the other hand, how about the font or typography in the rural areas, Huda?
I think it's very fascinating to see how rural area actually differs with cities, right? Because in rural areas, the sign use large Hangul letters, and they use bold colors and also lots of visual cues for the locals and also the tourists. Unlike in the cities that you say, they have very aesthetically pleasing font and colors, only black and white, right? But no, in rural areas it's really like red, and you can see from far. So I think it's reflect practicality because the local culture and also they want to catch your attention, especially in the island market. There's a lot of shops.
Wow, that's very different from the public transportation signs where the color schemes are usually very monochrome. Wow, I think we can talk about, I wish we can talk more about linguistic landscapes about in Korea because there's so much more to explore, guys.
Yes, true. I think there are a lot more to explore about Seoul, the cities, and also the rural areas.
Yes. So thank you again so much, Shida, for inviting us and to share a bit of knowledge that we have about the Seoul, about the Korea itself, and the language learning.
No problem. You both are so welcome. I wish we can talk more again. And for all the listeners, thank you for listening to Decode the Soul. See you again in the next episode.
Bye!